Hello, I'm back to continue my exciting Snakes and Ladders game. And what I'm realizing, and what you've seen as I've been kind of putting this together in a very messy and overly complicated probably way, is it's very hard to know what's going on and whether it's working or not. In between this, the last part that you might have seen in this, I stopped and I checked some things, so I'm pretty sure that it is working correctly logically, but it would really help. I could just sort of do some debugging by console logging more stuff to see what it's doing, but I would really like to just see an animation. So I would like to see an animation where I kind of think of the game as having different states. There's the state where I am somewhere. Then there's the state where I roll the die, or the die, if that's, or maybe it's spin, whatever it is, roll the die, and then I see where I'm going to move to. Then I move there. Then if that part is a snake or a ladder, I see that I'm going to move to a new spot. If not, I'm just going to roll again. So I want to think about different states. So I'm going to do this in a goofy way that is, I'm going to, for the first time in my life ever, use const. Because what I really want to do is make some constants that are that are talking about the state of the game. So I'm going to say, oh, this is probably, I'm going to say roll state. Oh, this is so overly talky and too many characters, but I was afraid to call it roll because what if I had something else called roll? Roll state, where I'm rolling the die. I'm going to say preview state, which actually, is that the same? So when I roll the die, I see the preview of where I'm about to go. So I'm going to make, that's going to be the same. Then I'm going to have move state, where I draw my next move. And then I'm going to have a snake ladder. What's a word? There's got to be a word for snake and ladder. Snadder. Lake. Let's try snadder. I like that. Snadder. Snadder, which is that the state of moving to the snake or ladder, if that exists. And then I'm going to go back to the roll state. So looking through the draw loop, let's think about what happens. So so now I need a variable called state. And state is going to start at roll state. So I'm going to start the game is going to have the roll state. So if then, and going into draw, I'm always going to draw all the tiles. Yeah, why not? I'm always going to draw all the snadders. That's my new word, show snadders, refactoring. That's my word for snakes and ladders. So if I go into the tile object, show snadders, and this should actually be, and I could probably do some global find and replace. I might change that later from snake or ladder to snadder. Okay, so now back here, player.roll. So definitely this is something that happens. If state equals roll state. I want to roll and I want to increase the number of rolls. Okay, so that I want to do. Now, then I want to maybe do say player show preview. So in the player, what the player does in roll is have an actual, so right now I do everything all at once. I roll the die, I move the spot, I draw the type, I check if it's a snake or ladder, I move it. So I got to divide all this up into different parts. This will make this better. So I need more variables. I always need more variables. The answer is more variables. This dot roll, maybe I can use the word die. So I don't know, because I'm going to just say roll equals, roll equals -1. So it doesn't have a roll at the beginning. And this is going to be roll die. I'm going to call this roll die. Actually rolling the die, and then I'm going to keep whatever this roll is. So that's the only thing I'm going to do in roll die. So I don't know, this is something else. I'll figure that out later. All I want to do is pick that roll. And so go back to the sketch. I want to roll die. And I don't need the tiles. So back in the player, I don't need the tiles. I'm just picking that number. Now, what I said that I want to do, I think, is show the preview. So what I might like to do is just kind of highlight all the ones up until the next spot. So I need to figure out what the next spot is, but not actually move the player there yet. So if I think about that, actually, what I do is I maybe I have next. I have a next. This dot next equals -1. Isn't it nice, by the way, how all of these variables have the same number of characters? They line up so nicely. Ooh, that makes me so happy. So I'm going to say then this dot next equals this dot spot plus this dot roll. Right? So I keep track of the current spot and the next roll. And then I want to say player show preview. And what the preview is going to do, and I'm going to need the tiles for this, is it's going to highlight some of the tiles. So I'm going to say for let I equal this dot spot, I is less than this dot next, and the end is going to be if this dot next is past the end of the tiles, so I have to say the end is the maximum of this dot next and tiles dot length, right? If this dot, no, the minimum, whichever one's lower. Is it the minimum or the maximum? Right? I want to say like if next is 12 and the number of tiles is 10, I want the end to be 10. So it's whichever one is the smaller one. So I think that's the minimum function. So I'm going to go all the way up to the end, I++. And I'm going to say tiles index I highlight. So what that's going to do, it should highlight all of the tiles that I'm about to move to. And so if I go into tile and I create show a highlight function, I can just say, let me highlight them with a nice little green and some alpha and draw that rectangle. So what happens, dare I attempt to run this now and just see this. So what I'm going to do actually is comment out the rest of all of this and see if I can roll the die and see the highlighting. Show SNADDERs is not a function. Really? Really? Sketch.js line 63. Show SNADDERs is not a function? Show SNADDERs. Snakes and SNADDERs. Not a schnadder, it's a snadder. SNADDER. Show SNADDER. Show SNADDER. Never record coding challenges late in the evening on a Friday. All right. Cannot read property length of undefined, player.js line 13. So let's figure this out. Tiles, doesn't know what it is because I forgot to pass in the tiles when I call show preview. Probably should just use tiles as a global variable, but cannot read highlight of undefined. Now, I think I know why this is the problem. So in the show preview function, when the game starts, the player is actually at spot -1 because it needs to, a roll of 1 gets you to the first spot. So I do have this other thing where I need to say start equals the maximum of 0 and this dot spot. So if it's -1, I think I can fix that, right? Maximum means the highest. Is that right? Is that right? Oh, no, I'm doing it backwards. I'm doing it backwards. If you want the maximum to be 10, you use minimum, because I want the lower one. Ugh. I did that backwards all along. Silly me, silly me, silly me. All right. Cannot read property highlight of undefined. So let's look at console.log I right here, just to sort of see. Whoops. The E key on my computer barely works. -1. It's still got -1. The minimum, no. I did it backwards again. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay, so we can see here I'm getting that preview. Perfect. I'm getting that preview for state 1. Now, I'm not doing anything but doing that over and over again, but that's great. Now what I need to do is say the state. What happens now immediately equals move state. What did I call it? Move state? Move state, yep. The state should equal move state. Now, if the state equals move state, then what I actually want to do is move the player. So I'm going to say player.move. So I'm going to say player.move, and in the player, I'm going to say move, and I think it's really just a matter of saying this dot spot equals this dot next, right? Just move it to the next spot, and I could also like check if it's off the edge at the end, but let's not worry about that right now. Then what I want to do, all of these I want to call player.show. Right? I want to say player.show, right? Which just draws the player in the spot. Where is the show function? And I need to give it the tiles. This is really convoluted about giving the tiles. All right, so then I'm going to give it the tiles because it needs to figure out what tile to show itself on. So let's try this. All right, so why did this happen only once? Did I put a no loop in there? 0, 1, 2. What am I console logging anyway? I want to move, and then I want to and then I want to set the state equal to roll state. So I'm going to have to check the snakes soon, but let me do this. So let me do this. Oh yeah, so let me set the frame rate down. This is great. Now I've really got something I can kind of track a little bit. Let me put the frame rate back down. Oh, look at that. Whoa, wait a second. Something's wrong here. I want to see a head, and then I want to see it move. I want to see it in its old spot. What do I have wrong? All right, what do I have wrong? Oh boy, this needs to be an else if. Right? Because I just change it to move state and then I do it immediately. But no. I only want to be able to do one of these states. Yes, switch statement would have done me well here. So let's now run this again. And I have an error, cannot get center of undefined, player.js line 44. Let center equals current. Current equals tiles.this.spot. So what is this dot spot there? It is -1, because once again, I can't draw the player at its negative spot. So this is a case that as long as this dot spot is, and I guess a nice way of doing this would be if not current, return. So just like get out of here. This is one way that I could do it. If there's no current thing, I don't need to draw it, get out of here. Moves, but it's moving one spot beyond where the roll is, right? So why is that? So that's a little bit of a mistake. The roll says, I need to include the next, less than or equal to next. I need to go all the way up to that spot. There we go. Moves to there. I kind of want to keep the highlight in there, but I could do that, but at least I can see. So this is really doing what I wanted to do now. I can see its roll, and then it moves there. Now what I want to do is, it's going to land on a ladder, but it's not going to go, a snake, it's not going to go down. Now, or that's a ladder. Visually, I've got some real serious graphic design issues here. Now what I need to do is, at the end of the move state, I need to check if the player is on a SNADDER, I need to do something. Otherwise, I can just go back to the roll state, right? If the player is on a SNADDER. Now, how do I know that? What do I have going on? Is that the something else that I hadn't figured out yet? Yes, it sort of is, right? So this is, I can call this is SNADDER. And I can say, I can look at the tile at its spot, and I can say, if tile snake or ladder is not equal to 0, return true. So this at least, so as long as it's actually on a tile, and that tile is a snake or a ladder, return true. Otherwise, return false. Let's just put this in there right now. And I know I could return the result of this. Let's do that. But I might want to do some other stuff in here, which maybe is a bad idea. So let me just return the result of this, just to like make this a little bit more elegant. And I need more space to see my code. As long as there is a tile and that tile is a snake or a ladder, return true. Otherwise, otherwise return false. That's what I'm doing. So now, if I were to go out into the sketch, I'm going to say no, no loop console.log hello. So I just want to see that right there it stops. So if I can get lucky and have it land on one of these, so now I can speed it up and it should stop. At some point it'll land on one of these. It didn't, and it got to the end. So if it gets to the end, so let's fix it so it starts over again. Player.js line 21. Player.js line 21. If it gets to the end, and the end is, this is the last one. Now that I have less than equals, the length minus 1. That should fix that. Okay, if it gets to the end, it doesn't actually restart because I got rid of all that game logic. What is this? Player.js line 20. Oh, I don't need this anymore. Thank you. All right, come on, land on one of these. Oh, I know a way to fix that. Let's have it just move one spot every time. The roll is always 1. Oh, interesting. So it's not detecting that it's landing on a snadder. Why not? So I messed something up. Let's look at this. Return tile. This is the tile that it's on, this dot spot, right? Because it has moved. It's moved. Oh, this is not a, I didn't call the function. So if, I didn't rename the function, is snadder. Okay, great. There we go. So we can see it stopped. So that's good. I'm detecting that correctly. Now what I want to do is go to another state. I want to say state equals, what did I call it? SNADDER State. State equals SNADDER State. Okay, so now, otherwise go back to the roll state. So you can move and go back to the roll state. Now I need to check else if state equals SNADDER State. Oh, this is very exciting. Everything is so much harder to program than you'd think. If state equals SNADDER State, creating a tongue twister here. Now what I need to do is what? I need to go back to here and where's my something else, the stuff that I saved? Did I lose it? Well, this is the time where I need to move snadder. Move snadder. So what I want to do is I want to say this dot, so I'm the player, I need the reference to the tiles. You know what? This is ridiculous. I should really have the player just store an internal variable that stores a reference to the, like it could actually add this dot tiles here and it points to the tiles, or just uses a global variable. I think for expediency right now, I'm trying to stay true to object-oriented programming in some way. There's really no point in me passing in the tiles everywhere, because I can just use the fact that it is a global variable. Tiles is a global variable. I need it everywhere. Let's not go nuts. Let's take that out of having to pass it through everywhere and just know that the player can go look up stuff in the tiles whenever it wants to. Because what I need to do right now in the player is move according to the snadder. So I need to get its current spot, and it actually would make sense to the spot perhaps not to be an index but to store which tile it's on, but that aside, then I could say this dot spot plus equal the tiles snake or ladder value. So now let's go and just change this to snadder to be consistent. So let's find everywhere I say this dot snake or ladder and change that to this dot snadder and replace all And that should make our lives a little bit more consistent. So now, if state equals SNADDER state, now what do? I say player dot, what did I call it? Move SNADDER. Move SNADDER. So there's a regular move and there's a SNADDER move, and those happen separately. And as soon as that's done, the state goes back to the roll state. Okay, let's see if we're good here. Where did everything go? This is a bad sign. Let's look at the player. The spot is not a number. Next is not a number. So something went wrong with the players next and spot almost immediately. So let's take out this little bit here. Let's take out this else if to see if the move SNADDER really just screwed stuff up. Spot 0, roll 1, next 0. But it's because, I'm going to just back up for a second, and I'll go back to move state, roll state, move state, roll state. Okay, so move state, roll state works. Hey, what happened to my SNADDERs? Why don't I see them anymore? It must be something to do with the show SNADDERs. So these seem to not exist. Oh, because I left this in there. I left the tiles in one spot, which is really a problem when I was like refactoring. I left that in there. So is there some other place I have tiles and this is, okay. So let's see here. What have I done to deserve this? If this dot SNADDER does not, it probably also messed something up when I, oh, I know, I think I might know what the problem is. I think I know what the problem is. I refactored. Oh, I'm a terrible programmer. And I didn't change the property here. That's why we don't have them anymore. So let's put that back. Okay. Now we're back to where we were before. My refactoring actually caused more problems than it solved. So let me see now if I can put this back. And even, I don't know, I'm just going to go crazy and put the SNADDER snake back. The SNADDER, okay. So, okay, good. Now I'm back. I'm still debugging. Let's go back to, all right. So do we ever get to, what's causing the problem? We lose immediately. Okay, hold on. All right. By the way, this is a nice little improvement I can make. But let's figure out where it's going wrong. I'm going to back out of my adding the SNADDER state. Let's go back and just see. All right, I still have a problem. That's good. So I have a problem where? Spot 0, roll 1. Oh, and I forgot this has to be in there. That's where the problem is. Okay, so this is fine. This is fine. Now, do I detect? At least I can say, is this detect correctly? If it lands on 1. It's going to keep going. Whoops. Whoops, I don't want that. This is another. I don't want this else here, so much mess. But I just want to see if the detection, ooh, it's detecting it all the time. No, my isSNADDER function is a big problem. This function is not working properly. So let me look at the player object. I forgot, oh boy. This renaming of variables really, really bad Schiffman. All right, so now we're not seeing it. Yep, there we go. We landed on a spot, and there we go. So we landed on 2. There were just 2. And we can see here, when we land on 1, we got 1, another 1, another 1. Okay, so we're good now. Now we're good with the isSNADDER. Okay, we're good with the isSNADDER. Now we can go back to, once we are on a SNADDER, setting that state to the SNADDER state, otherwise go back to the roll state. Okay, oops, and I've got my brackets out of place. There we go. So basically what I'm doing here is I move the player. If it's a snake or a ladder, go to that state, otherwise just roll again. So now, if it is a snake or a ladder, let's try actually doing this and rolling. All right. Oh, it's working. Look. Did you see that? Now, it happens really fast. Look what's going to happen when it gets to there. It goes back. See, we're in this nice loop, and we're actually seeing it. We're actually seeing it. If I slowed it down a little more, it might be nice to animate it going, pew, sliding down that thing. But as you can see, you probably don't want to watch me try to do that. Okay, so we're in pretty good shape now. Couple things I need to do. Number one is I need to figure out if the game is over. So that should work fine. This should be the same idea. If the player spot is greater than or equal to the end, keep it at the end, set game over equal to true. I don't need this player show anymore. If game is over, reset the player. All this stuff should really still work in terms of averaging and all of that. So let's put all this stuff back and let's run this. Now, the thing is, I need to be able to roll more than just a 1. And I want to slow it down a tiny bit so I can really watch and see that it's running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I'm going to not make the frame rate 1 frame per second, but I'm going to make it 5 frames per second. And then, by golly, I am going to, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm really trying to keep up the energy, right? It's like fading fast, but I'm keeping it up. I am going to be able to roll 1 through 6. So if I go back to here, I want to roll 1 through 6, and now here we go. So I'm seeing where I roll. Now remember, white is a snake. So I fell down. I got past it. Here we go. I got up the ladder, and we made it to the end. Yes! We are making snakes and ladders. Now, you can see here that my talent, well, it barely lies in anything. My talent lies in maybe talking and coding at the same time, although I kind of do that rather ridiculously and poorly. My talent certainly doesn't lie in visual design, in interaction design. There's a lot of improvements here, but at least I'm kind of showing you the pieces here. How could you create these different states? Now that I have these different states, I could actually have internal animations in those states as well. So let me at least, just to really feel that this is working in an interesting way, let me go back to the sketch, just to finish off here. Let me make 5 snakes, 5 ladders. Let me instead of making it 10 by 10, let's make it 20 by 20 for fun. So I need to look for that resolution to make it 20 now. And then let me let it run quickly. So we're going to now watch a simulation of snakes and ladders on a 20 by 20 grid. I'll make this bigger and see how this plays out. Whoa, okay, I forgot that my circle is much too big. So we can see that on this 20 by 20 grid with these random snakes and ladders, that we are averaging so far 67 rolls. This is a little bit of a bug here that when I'm drawing the player should be drawn according to the tile size. So I guess this, where does that have a, where can I access that? I don't know. I'm just going to make that 16 right now. So I could refactor. So now we can see here is it. And I almost want to make this even more insane by just creating 15 of each. And now let's watch this totally insane Snakes and Ladders game. Can it ever make it? It still hasn't made, oh, it made it in 75 rolls. It made it in just a few rolls. So we can now see, this is something, if try to create a math formula to compute the average amount of rolls it would take for it to make it from the beginning to the end. I don't know that you could do that, but now we can watch this little Monte Carlo simulation of just running it over and over again and kind of get that average ourselves. So this is Snakes and Ladders. So much you could do to animate this better, to make it a game that you could play, to try different ideas out, to think about the space not as a grid, but as some kind of pathway, Candyland-like pathway. So many possibilities. And yes, I should have used Control-Shift-F to find and replace in all of the spots. But next time I will do a better job of that. So this is really, for sure, definitely the end of this game, which I am now told from the live chat that this is also called Escalators and Eels. Snakes and Ladders, Chutes and Ladders, Escalators and Eels. Make your own. Thanks for watching. See you in a future coding challenge.